So today we are talking with Santiago Garcia, who is the co-founder of the Future for Work Institute, which you set up with your business partner, Jordi Serrano, in 2016.
Yeah.
Both your backgrounds, you're two former HR executives with consulting experience and have an extensive track record when it comes to disseminating future of work trends, and through blogs, books, conferences, and other media. So tell us about, why there was a need to set up the Future for Work Institute.
Well, as you said, both of us, we are coming from the HR function. No? We used to work as HR executives in different companies, in different industries. And different point of time, both changed from the corporate world into consulting, into, let's say, a standard HR consulting, where we mostly did team and leadership development, maybe some redesign of HR processes, and so. And at certain point of time, we met together, we had a coffee together, in order to explore what we could do together in this field of HR consulting. And the idea we had was to write a book on a topic of common interest that was the future of work. Our original idea was to title the book "The Future of Work" or "How to Survive in the Future of Work." Our editor said, well, maybe it's better to title that in a more dramatic way, because we were in the years of the big recession. Say, okay, let's title it "The Decline of Employment" or "Employment in Decline." And so, no, el ocaso del empleo.
This was 2012.
Right. It was by the end of 2012. Yeah, when we wrote that book, and then after that, we continue doing some small projects together. We also started a podcast in Spanish, "Futuro del Trabajo," the future of work. But by the end of 2016. We detected that there was in the Spanish market, an attended need for the professionals of the HR functions. No? And most of them, they start realizing that many things were changing in the world, many things were changing in the labor market. They saw that some of the traditional solutions they used to apply in their organizations, they were not getting the same results than in the past. And at the same time, they had an additional problem that was an information overload, coming from basically from the internet, but not only. They had a lot of information from books, events, congresses, trainings, YouTube, whatever.
Yes.
And we detected that maybe it might be a good idea to design a kind of service that might help these people to explore all these trends, all these changes, to help them separate the signal from the noise, and at the end of the day, help them take better informed decisions in the field of people management in their organization.
Okay, so how do you help them make better informed decisions?
Well, let's say that we play like two main roles. On the one hand, we always say that we act as a kind of independent observatory. So we provide our clients with information services about what's going on in the labor market, or what's going on in the field of technology innovation applied to people management in organization, or what's going on in terms of academic research on related fields like sociology, economy, maybe technology. This is one of the things we do. So we produce reports. We also send them a monthly newsletter with news related to these topics. But in parallel of that, we also act as a kind of facilitators of a community of practice. It's a community that is composed by the HR professionals of our clients, And we organize for them different types of events, like seminars with experts, where we bring some people who are really experts about a specific topic. We organize other kind of events where we share, or where companies share their experiences with certain solutions and so on. And basically, this is what we do.
And they pay a subscription fee for this information?
Yes, companies pay a 12-month subscription fee. It was like 3 different formulas. And with this payment, everything is covered. What's important from us is that we are an independent observatory. So they know upfront, our clients know upfront what we want to sell them. And we want to sell them information and learning services, nothing else. We are not trying to sell them then consulting services or whatever. No? So,
but it's also a good way for them to network with other HR consultants.
Of course. For us, it's very important, this idea of a close learning community, a kind of community of practice, that it's a kind of club, where people know each other, and they also build like trust relations, so they can share more freely with a higher level of confidence their experiences in certain topics. Because otherwise, in larger scale events, the problem is that normally you got a speaker that explains what they do in the company, but normally they only present the more sunny side, not the real difficulties and problems they face.
Yes. How many members do you have?
Well, now we've got 36 clients. Most of them, they are large Spanish corporations from a diversity of industries. We've got companies from the energy sector, from banking, from the industry as well. And we've got public companies, we've got private companies. So quite diverse, but most of them, they are Spanish and they are large size organizations.
Right. And when you organize the events, what are the relevant topics in terms of, the content that you provide?
Well, let's say that there are like two levels, or I would say 3 levels of content. No, on the top level, I would mention what's going on in the world in general, the mega trends, what's going on in the economy, what's going on in the socio-demographic environment, what's going on in terms of technology and the evolution of artificial intelligence, for instance, all these kind of things. No? So then in the middle, in the mid range, we provide them content related to what's going on with organizations, the way companies organize themselves to respond to those changes in the big world. No? So how they adapt their structures, their work systems, the kind of skills they need, this kind of things. And then at a lower level, we go sometimes in the detail of specific people management practices, like what they do in regards talent acquisition, what they do in regards training, and so on.
Okay, so it's information for them, which is, useful, everyday information. And does your book, come into this in terms of what you wrote in your book?
Well, our book was a more high-level approach. It was for a general public. It was not addressed specifically for HR professionals. So, yeah, we talk a lot about what were going on in the world in 2012. That was when we wrote the book, and also what was going on in the world of work and in the world of organization. We didn't go into the detail about specific practices in terms of people management in organization, but it might be considered as a kind of introduction to the
right. So you were writing about the megatrends then.
Yeah.
And how that was in 2012. How is it? Do you see sort of like that your book has come into transition? I mean, like come into play?
Well, yes, most of it, yes, but of course there are also surprises. You know, it's very difficult. I mean, we always say that since the future does not exist and the world is very complex and very changing, it's very difficult to predict. No, so yes, some of the trends we explain in our book, they are already here. Some of them with more intensity than what we expected, like remote work, for instance. No, that after
Yes.
coronavirus, I mean, no one expected that such a high number of people would be working from their homes
No.
now in 2020.
Yes.
And then there were also like new trends. No, for instance. Certain types of independent work, like the riders, no, like Deliveroo and Uber Eats and all this phenomenon. We didn't cover it in our book because it was
On
not in our
demand.
radar. No, yeah.
So what were the things that you did predict?
Well, let's say that basically the automation.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about automation. We also talk about the race of the digital giants, no? The accumulation of power of digital giants. Also, we talk about demographics, particularly about the impact of the aging of population in the labor market, and many other things. But this would be the three major trends, mega trends, no, that we explain
Right.
and now we are living in that world.
Yes. Well, the coronavirus has helped speed things up. I mean, what have you seen from observing the changes, especially here in Spain? What have you seen that people have had to adapt to the changes?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I would say that the most visible change is everything related to working from home, no? Having this such a large amount of people working from home, because it's not the kind of remote work we expected to have in
No.
the future. And we expected people to work remotely, maybe from a nice co-working space, maybe from a beach. And now we got families together,
Yes.
working in small spaces. So you need to combine work with family life. It's not so easy. Particularly
No.
in Spain, we tend to live in small apartments. No, it's not a
Yes.
country of large houses. People, we normally live in small apartments, and they are not prepared for that.
No.
Another important change is everything related to digitalization, not digitization. Because, of course, to work remotely, you need to have a minimum digital infrastructure and a minimum digital competence. And many people and many families don't have. And this is also a source of concern for us, no? The digital divide. Because
Yes.
as a consequence of coronavirus, of the lockdown, because of the coronavirus, many families have problems with their children following remotely their lessons in the school. They don't have that.
Well, yes.
And
They've
there are
got to
problems
manage
also
homeschooling as well.
yeah, and also problems with elderly people that they feel completely isolated. No, their children cannot visit them because it's forbidden, but at the same time they cannot connect with them via video chat because they don't have this infrastructure nor the knowledge to do.
No, so actually working, as, in terms of, they were thrown into a situation suddenly that they had to deal with. So the challenges of also working remotely is, communication between teams.
Absolutely. Communication between teams, communication between bosses and their team members. That is also a very important thing, because here we also have like a cultural component, in Spain, in South Europe in general. We've got culture of being in the office, being present there.
Yes.
And bosses, traditional bosses, appreciate that people stay in the office and they are there when they are there, no?
Yes.
And also in terms of leadership styles, no? In terms of the level of trust leaders have in their team member, in their employees. So when if the level of trust you've got in your employees is low, in the moment you cannot see what those employees are doing every moment, you feel very nervous. And this is something that it's happening now.
Yes.
Yes.
So how do they manage that? I mean, how is Spain sort of dealing with that?
Yeah, well, in terms of the bosses with these situations, one of the problems is that some of them, they try to replicate this this culture of presence in the digital world, no? So they organize a lot of calls, so you can see people, how they are working. You make sure that they are attending work because you can see them in a conference. But what they really need is to change the way of working, the way of managing people, understanding that we are in a different time. This culture of presence is not working anymore, it's not possible. They need to understand that thanks to the digital technologies now you can do a lot of work in an asynchronous way. So you don't need to be working in parallel every time. There are many things you can do without a meeting. So the people need to learn to work in a different way. I think this is the biggest challenge, not try to replicate the digital world, the defects we had when we work in the physical one. Yeah?
Yes. So adapting to the changes and being more flexible and having more trust.
Yes, trust is key. I mean, for me, trust is the key element of an effective remote work. If we want to continue working remotely in the future, without trust, it's not possible. It's crazy.
Yes. And do you think, I mean, obviously there's, I mean, it's affected employment in Spain.
Yes.
So what are people considering? I mean, like they're getting rid of people, but they're having to make teams kind of more efficient.
Yeah. It's, I mean, the real impact of coronavirus in employment is still unknown. No? There are some predictions, of course. We know that it will be large. We know that maybe the way we will work in the future will be different, in part for this assimilation that remote work is more possible than what we thought it was in the past, but also because we will also see changes in the, let's say, in the sectorial structure of employment in Spain. You know, in Spain we've got many people working in the tourist industry, etc. And maybe there will be changes. No, there will be some jobs and some kind of services that will not be so demanded in the future, or at least in the near future. So these people there will need to retrain themselves.
So upskill and reskill.
That's it. They will need to change their capacities, so they will need to be able to work in different kind of works. For sure, this will not be possible without the help of government. We will need also, we will see also an increase in public employment, just to try to reactivate the economy of the country. Of course, we need to help, or we need to set a kind of incentives so people get more interested in learning new things, in getting trained.
So what would you recommend to somebody who's lost their job? What would you say to them?
Well, first, they need to my typical recommendation would be to understand, do recommendation, no? To understand what's going on in the world and to understand themselves, no? To gain a bit of self-awareness in terms of strengths and weaknesses. Of course, now it's very difficult to determine what's going on in the world around us. It's very difficult to predict anything, but maybe we can get some hints about what can survive in the future, what kind of jobs will have more opportunities of surviving in the future. And I would recommend them to focus in training themselves to be able to get one of those jobs, no? And in the moment, because it's not only coronavirus, it's coronavirus, but on top of that, we've got automation, we've got technological change, we've got changes in the business model, in certain business models, we've got globalization. So we've got a lot of forces working together, but there are some jobs that got a brighter future than others. So
yeah, so what would companies look for in terms of investing in people? What do you think they would look for?
Well, basically, let's start from the very basic. No, I think that now, and it's evident after this experience, they look for people who are digital competent, I would say. In terms of basic digital competence, they need people that they need to be able to connect remotely, to use normal device, automatic applications, this kind of things. But more and more, they are looking for capacities that cannot be held by machines or software, no? Like creativity, like empathy, like resiliency, like critical thinking, all these kind of things that make the human jobs more human, no?
Yes, exactly. Bringing humanization with technology.
Yeah,
how can they go hand in hand?
Yeah, and this is also a very important trend we are detecting, no? That more and more companies are not looking only for pure technical profiles, but kind of hybrid profiles in which people combine both technical and humanistic capacities, you know?
They understand both sides of the coin. Yes.
Yeah.
And what are your clients? I mean, have you had any feedback about how they're coping during coronavirus?
Well, let's say that fortunately, most of our clients are large companies, so they are stronger, no? That's the typical Spanish company, and I think this is important. Our clients are more similar to other large European corporations. So let's say that their first concern for all of them, as far as we know, is the health and the safety of their employees. This is number one by far. And then, of course, they are trying to adapt as much as they can. Some of them, they've got businesses, or they are playing in industries that they are easier to be work remotely, like financial industry, professional advisory, and so others, they are manufacturers, so some of them, they had to stop their factories. Others, they were able to reconvert their factories and start producing like ventilators for hospitals, or like robes for the doctors, or masks, and so, or hydrogel.
Yes.
So we've got these different, very, very different situations. But let's say that the good thing is that most of them, they are large corporations, so they got resources, more resources than average. And the other way is that I would say all of them, they have this sensitiveness about what comes first.
Do you think Spanish companies will easily adapt to these changes? Because I mean, they're quite old-fashioned, aren't they, when it comes to working?
Yeah. Again, here, I think we should differentiate between large Spanish corporations and the average Spanish corporation. The average Spanish corporation is quite small compared to the average European company. And of course, they've got less resources, less scale, less resources. And also in some cases, let's say that the leadership culture in this organization is a bit old-fashioned as well, a bit conservative, and they don't tend to invest a lot in the training of their employees, and this is not a good combination for the adaptability of a company. No.
But do you think they will consider new ways of working and training their employees? And do you think they will adapt?
Well, some of them, yes, of course, but not all of them. Not all of them. I'm sure we will see many companies closing in the coming months. This will be a matter of fact, not only because the economic impact of those months of lockdown and so, and the decline in the demand, but maybe complete changes in business models. No? Some services, maybe they will be provided in a completely different way in the future. Maybe some of the activities we wanted to be provided by humans before this situation. Now we'll say, okay, yes, we prefer humans, but maybe if they are provided by machines, this will be safer.
Yeah, and they'll have to put new, systems in place, won't they? In terms of being more efficient at work, and also HR, how they manage their people, and also engaging their employees. I mean, what would you say to sort of like a company that wants to engage their employees more?
I say that they will need to set new systems to become more efficient, but above all, I think the objective is to be to rethink their systems to become more agile, more adaptable to whatever can come. In the past, and we were discussing that we are living in a VUCA world, in a volatile, uncertain, complex world. Okay, after coronavirus, I mean, now everyone is convinced of that. So to face this kind of environment, or to survive in this kind of environment, you need to have a very agile organization. You need an adaptable organization. And to have adaptable organization, you need to have adaptable employees. So you need people who are open to learn new things, to play different roles. You need curious people that they get interested about new things, people that they don't abandon themselves. Okay, no, I've been here in this company for 10 years, so I know everything I can know. They need to convince people that their employability is very important, sometimes, or most of the times, most important than their real employment, no? As employability, the quality of employable in the future. And they need to help on that, particularly on that, I think.
So it's showing an interest in their employees, and also they're having values that align with their employees.
Sure. You need people now, or more people now, want to be treated as adults. No? So companies need to develop other kind of organizational cultures, more based on a culture of freedom and responsibility, where people in the organizations can understand everything, communication can be more transparent, and you can trust them upfront by default, no? And then, of course, if the person is not at the level you expect from the person, then you will take the necessary decisions. But by default, you should treat them as adults, no? As people who want to give their best in the work.
It sounds like they need help from the outside to look in.
Yeah.
No.
I think they will need help. I think, and this is also important, no? Because particularly in the past, no? Now we are in the middle of this crisis, and maybe it's more difficult to have a clear picture of what's going on. No? But in the past, there were a clear trend about companies telling their employees or the people that work for them that they need to take the driver's seat in their professional development. And sometimes this was a kind of, let's say, abdication of responsibility from the companies into the people. And I think that we live in a complex world, and I think this process of high scale reskilling and upskilling, adaptation, however we want to call it, is a shared responsibility. Of course, of people, but also of companies, the education system, government, families, and so. And all of us, we need to take action, and we need to help to facilitate that the society as a whole gets adapted to this new world of work that it's coming, or it's already here.
Great. Well, brilliant. Well, so, I mean, Santi, you've got a lot to say about the future for work, and you know what can we expect from you, you know, in terms of the institute in the future? What are you going to bring in more services, or how are you going to help with this topic?
Well, what we are doing, besides the services we provide our clients, no, in this kind of close community, in a trust environment where we share our learnings and where we discuss about what's coming in the future. We are also doing some open reports that we are planning to publish in the coming weeks or months. One of those reports, it's about how Spanish workers are perceiving the reactions from their employers in the context of the coronavirus crisis. And this is a report we have done with the collaboration of 3-4 other firms. And now we are also starting a second study, a second report that we have the intention of making it public in September, about reskilling in the context of the economic reconstruction, you know, after coronavirus.
Great. So being prepared or preparing for the new economy.
Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Well, if people want to find out more information, the website is www.futureforwork.com.
Right.
And the book that you wrote, where can they find it?
Well, they can find it in the internet, in Amazon, and in many bookstores, online or offline. The title in Spanish is only in Spanish. There's no in English translation, unfortunately. Is El ocaso del empleo. That's employment in decline, and you can find it. It's a bit old, and so we describe the future of work from a 2012 perspective. But maybe some people might find it interesting as a piece of archaeology or something like that.
Well, it sounds like the Future for Work Institute is providing more up-to-date information than your book.
Right. Yeah.
But that's when you started, and you're carrying on, and people are using you as an encyclopedia for this topic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sandy, for your time, and it's been
You're
very
welcome.
Interesting and engaging, and look forward to connecting with you offline, hopefully, in the near future. All right?
It will be great. Thank you very much.
It would be lovely and great to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Yep, that's it. Oh,
Good.
hang on. Wait, hang on.